Hey there you lot, welcome back to another Sunday night special. I'm a bit flat today with my cats going down to Brisbane yesterday. Congratulations Brisbane, you suck, but never mind. I will see you on the other side with a review of what's going on in my week otherwise. See you in a minute. Apologies to the Brisbane people, you don't suck. It was just a disappointing game for me to watch yesterday. I do love my cats and I am a bit flat about how they went after half time. What I've done this week in the never-ending slog of fish keeping and breeding, we have put some fish back in our big grow out tanks. These are the couple of 450 litre tanks that I have. Middle row here we've thrown 100 odd little baby venustus, and we've got some electric yellows and some hongi and some placidochromis blue otters. Basically almost 200 fish, believe it or not, just with a view to growing them on as fast as I can to get them out for some income. I'm gradually building a bit of a revenue by getting some fish out into Sydney on a regular basis, which is kind of helping me grow again and recover. The bottom tank here, I've got no idea how many fish I've got in here. I've taken a couple of good netfuls of the Otopharynx tetrastigma that I bred a proverbial butt ton of a few weeks ago, and you would have seen that in my species feature video on the Otopharynx tetrastigma keeping and breeding. But it's quite staggering how quickly they seem to just bang on 5 to 10 mil once you get them into that bigger volume of water. It's pleasing to kick them on. And we continue to just go that route with throwing fish into that big tank that I can mix and match and hopefully pull out again later on without having to do too much sorting. Today I've spent a bit of time in this tank, which was a catch and harvest. These are Labidochromis Chismule, the Mweka variant, not quite breeding yet, but they must be bloody close because we've got a beautiful little boy showing. There's Lethrinops Mabazi rainbows, which must also be very close. And the main thing we got out of here today, we did strip a couple of the Haplochromis Theraturi on the Black Katanas, which could even be one of the females we stripped there, maybe looking a bit tired. Got 2 mouthfuls out of eggs, which I'll show you around the back in a tumbler in a minute. Also got into the Macrops, Lwanda Peacock and Astata Tilapia Burtoni tank, and did produce all 3 species, which was kind of nice. But what wasn't nice is the failure yet again of a Zis box. There's Exhibit A, box on the ground, hooks up there. So basically the Burtoni that I bred a month or so ago were in that box and doing great, and clearly these fish are getting a bit bigger now, and they must have been pecking away at the bottom of that box and have managed to basically knock it up and into the tank, which is pretty disappointing. I did get a mouthful of Burtoni, as I mentioned, so I've got another egg tumbler around the back, and down in here we've got some little Macrops, 2 mouthfuls of there, 50 odd that I've got to introduce into my grow out tank. So that'll give me plenty of them to work with. This tank is still looking a little bit dusty. These are one of my pride and joy fish, the large long things at the back there, the Reganochromis calurus, which is a Tanganyikan cichlid. Really my cup of tea. They're a biparental mouth brooder, and just a cool fish. And I'm housing them with these blue neon peacocks, which are have turned into quite a nice example of the species here. We've got a good boy showing in front, and we produced a mouth for them as well to go with some that I bred a while ago. My salts hadn't gone through the strainer, which is going to make it look a whole lot more dusty. Just want to make sure I get that lid shut before I go to bed tonight, because Tangs being Tangs, they will jump. Job that we'll get to next week, and I think I might have alluded to these recently, the Mabazi, this is the Gold Harbour Lethrinops, the Monkey Bays, and he's been looking great for a fortnight now since the last water change, and we've got here somewhere definitely one fish holding. I think that's one holding there, and it could even be two. It's not that one. You're holding. You look sad. I think I've got two Gold Harbours holding, and it could even be a third one somewhere, but that's pleasing because they're a good seller, and it will be nice to get some of them out. The little Kalizas bopping around on the bottom are looking great. It's just a nice tank to look at the moment. These mixture of pretty exotic Tanganyikans and the beautiful Lake Malawi there, the Gold Harbour, a really striking species. Now I'd imagine I'll get to them later in the week, probably Thursday or Friday. I think this first fish has been holding for around 8 to 10 days, so a little bit longer is not going to hurt. Another job for the week, somewhere in here again, we've got Horii holding, and possibly marble peacocks, which I don't care so much about, but the Horii is important to me. The Lake Tangs, as you know, is something I do enjoy. I just realised too, I did a catch and count and harvest in my species 35 tomato tank, Mapangas, of which I got both of those species. Unfortunately this time around the barracuda I missed out on, didn't get any of those, which is starting to concern me because I've got 6 breeders and I've pulled quite a few eggs, but not having a massive success with producing those or growing them on. Down here are the little blue neon peacocks, if they're going to swim for me into the corner. One mouthful, probably 20 to 25 nice blue neons. These are some of the Mapangas that we pulled. That was a couple of mouthfuls. One mouthful slightly carrying a bit of yolk still, so that's why I'm just finished them off in an ice cream container. We're about due to go back into the hongi and blue otter tank because we've got fish holding here that need some help pretty soon. That'll be maybe Tuesday job. Did a little bit of work on the back wall. Got a nice little tank ready. I've got a pair of brevis down there that have had fry for a while, and I need to move them along because I've got to repair the tank as well. So we'll drop mum and dad into brand new fresh tank here that's all sexy and ready to go, and I can grade and count the fry that I've got to see how many I'll have of those to sell. Our Hequi tank's been fun. I've got to send some of these over to Max in Melbourne next Friday. I think I might have mentioned that last week's video, so sorry if I'm repeating. Our little tumbler of zebra obliquitans are getting real close to ready to let out. The way I like to check them is I've just pinched the flow off to my egg tumbler, so no bubbles or very little bubbles. And if they all kind of plummet to the bottom like that, they're not quite ready yet. When they're swimming under their own steam, we'll let them out of that box. What else have we got? We produced some Benga peacock this week, which I guess isn't maybe a big wow for people, but once again it's bread and butter for my way of breeding. We've got a batch in there that needed a little spin, and they're tumbling away. And then we've got some up there in the fry box up top. That's a mouthful that we're fully ready to free swim. So between those two and some that I did a couple of weeks ago, I've hopefully got pushing towards 100 little Bengas to come out shortly. And along here we have a couple of tumblers, which, if I remember rightly, I should really write on them. These are the the Black Katanas, that the Haplochromis ferriturian. So those eggs look really nice and fertile. Good colour there. Two fish involved, so hopefully 40 odd to come there. Next tumbler is some what have we got in here? These are the Burtoni, I think. So one mouthful, 20-25 or so. And the other thing I did today is I printed up some labels on my tanks, which you might be saying, so bloody what? And if you're in other states, be grateful that you don't have government poking their nose into your business. I unfortunately down here in Tasmania have to comply with some rules that you guys don't, in terms of breeding fish and having licenses and so forth. Part of that is being a registered fish farm, believe it or not. And I'm copping a bit of bullshit at the moment about compliance and having to provide a full audit of the fish that I keep and where I'm keeping them and where the species are and so on. And so that's what these labels are about. It's a pain in the arse, frankly. So yeah, be thankful you don't have that in your state. Yeah, I'm done. That's all I've got to say tonight. Thanks for watching, folks, and we'll see you in another week. Bye for now.